Hey guys, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. This is Meghan, the Fibromyalgia Warrior, and I'm glad to see that you've come back to join me, and well, so to speak, because obviously you're not right here, but I'm glad you're watching. And for those of you who have stumbled across this video or are new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I really hope that you guys will give this a thumbs up and subscribe, because that would be fantastic. We can only but, try to support each other as much as possible. So for those of you who have watched a few of my videos, thank you. I was realizing that a few of them, I think in a couple of videos, I was probably trying too hard to be somebody that I'm not, which is, I'm not an influencer. I'm not. For those of you out there who have been watching and following me loyally all this time, I super appreciate all your support. I'm doing this because I feel like what I'm going through, there must be other people who are going through it, and I'm not really good at necessarily keeping on top of Facebook. I'm really bad that way. So even though I've joined a few different Facebook groups, I personally prefer to share how I'm doing this way. And for those of you who just came across my video, you're looking for some sort of help or ideas about, oh, I've got fibromyalgia, they've told me, now what do I do? Thank you. I hope that what I have to share might be helpful to you in some way. So what I really want to start off by saying is, I'm really glad you guys are here. I'm 48. I was told that I had fibromyalgia back in December of 2015. That was after I was told in July of 2015 that the reason my fingers and toes were going really white or really purpley blue and then back again was because I have Raynaud's. And that's just where for whatever reason, the brain is in emergency mode and it's telling the vessels to either close or open to either let the blood flow or not, which, will then affect the color. So going totally white, they're numb, there's not enough blood flow, because for some reason the brain thinks your body's overheated. And I find when I feel super stressed or anxious, that's when it happens. Or if your body decides that you're not heated enough, then I get swelling and my fingers and toes go bright red. And usually it's weird. It's at the opposite times that it should be. So it's about 16 degrees out here in Colchester, England. And I'm nice and cozy. I don't know if you saw, I'm wearing this really nice, it's super long. It's hard to see in this monitor, but it is essentially, it's a sweater dress, if you will. It's a rib knit sweater type dress that I'm wearing with some leggings. Nice and cozy. But in spite of that, my fingertips are a bit cold and my toes are really cold, even though the rest of me is nice and warm. So my fingers and toes kind of work, it goes opposite to what you think it should do. And I was told that the reason I have it at secondary, and it is often considered an autoimmune condition. And sometimes it can be triggered by, it can be triggered by a lot of things. It is, one of the main symptoms of hypothyroidism, which I was told in March this year I have, which I was sure I did, long before I finally saw a specialist, just because of the symptoms I've been dealing with for the last few years, with sudden and unexplained weight gain and dry skin and hair that was falling out and everything, all that kind of stuff, cold hands, cold feet. So finally, I went to see the specialist because my cholesterol, and more importantly, my triglycerides were really high all of a sudden, and my liver was also in distress. I was starting down the path of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and I was definitely in insulin resistance and metabolic distress. And I didn't even know what that stuff was. They didn't call it that when I went to see the lipid doctor, But she said, yes, I definitely have an underactive thyroid, which is also along with the fact of my liver is under too much stress. My triglycerides are way too high. And all of that fun stuff, on top of the fact of also having irritable bowel syndrome, which I was told I had back in 2007 when we still lived in Canada. We've been here in England for 12 years now, for those of you who might be wondering. So I knew I had IBS way back then. And of course, a lot of it was triggered by stress, anxiety, and depression, which are all things I dealt with for years. But I didn't actually get anything to sort of help with any of that until 2015. And my GP finally started to put me on antidepressants. And more so, not because the depression was such a big deal, but because of the anxiety that I was constantly feeling. My older son, who is going to be 20 on the weekend, has high functioning autism, and he's brilliant and he's fantastic, and he wants to be completely independent when COVID's done at some point, get his own place, maybe get a girlfriend or a wife, learn how to drive a car, get a full-time job, which is all wonderful, but with needed support. So all those different stages of life were even that much more stressful because he had additional needs. And it was about trying to make sure he got the support he needed to get to those places in life. And as a parent, I think we all feel stress because that is life. Is my kid going to get along with other kids? Are they going to be in a fight with anybody? Are we going to have to get calls from school because they were causing problems? All that kind of stuff, which was my younger son when he was younger. He's in his second year of a professional chef program, and he is brilliant. He is working as a commis de chef in training, which is, I think, a sous chef in training or something like that at a really, really, really nice, pretty fancy restaurant here just outside of Colchester. And he's just doing brilliantly. So, there are things that you get new worries and new stresses as life goes on. I'm 48 and my husband turned 50 this July. And so, we're getting older. I don't feel old necessarily, but I sometimes look at my life and think, what would I be doing if I didn't have, now Raynaud's, I've always had cold hands and feet, even as a kid, so I would have probably just learned to live with it. But it was in March of 2014 when I went to take stuff out of our dryer, my disc bulged out in my lower back. Not enough for paralysis, thank goodness for that, but the doctors all figure it probably is what set off that I may have always had fibromyalgia with mild symptoms because I've always had problems with my knees and my back if I tried to pick up running or jogging. Even just regular exercise would always cause me lower back problems. But they figure it was that incident that just really just blew it wide open. And so even though that happened, and I'm sort of getting my head around the fact of, my husband's been able to go to the gym. He loves cycling. He's doing loads and loads of miles around here. He'll go out for a 30-mile bike ride and call it just a quick ride, And there I am thinking, I wish I could ride a bike again. But I can't because it's too much pain on my lower back. It's too much bouncing and too much movement. So even though I can walk around the house a bit more now without having to use my crutch, which is fantastic, the thing about it is there's still pain. I'm halfway through my Shark Week. I heard a YouTuber refer it to that, ladies, Steak and Butter Gal. She's cool. If you get a chance, check out her channel. But that made me laugh. So yeah, halfway through Shark Week for myself, and I know that's what's causing so much of my aching joints and aching pain because the hormone changes. I also have, before I forget, I also live with irritable bowel syndrome. I also have multiple food intolerances and loads of sensitivities that I always knew about, even way back when we were still in Canada. I just, because they told me it wasn't a full-out allergy, I just decided I'll suffer the bloating, I'll suffer the gas and the discomfort and the sore joints because I really want this piece of chocolate, or I really want this, whatever. So that was not a surprise to me. Even when I was told by some doctors here that I should look at, maybe taking some things out of my diet and see if it helps. But yeah, so I have osteoarthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, hypothyroidism, fibromyalgia, plus chronic musculoskeletal pain, especially through my lower back. And that was just from multiple injuries and falls. Just, you grew up in Canada, you're guaranteed to wipe out on the sidewalk at least once every winter. And I tell you what, you do it enough times on your butt, it's going to add up. It's going to really suck. Now this, for those of you who see this neck pillow, which is in most of my videos, the reason why is because, yes, I do have the fibromyalgia neck pain, like all around the sides, at the top of my shoulders, down the back of my neck. But what also makes it worse is back in 2017, when my husband and I were coming back home from a couple of nights away in London, we were at a roundabout waiting to make our turn to go home, and there was at least 2 cars in front of us. One car was able to go, the next one moved up. We were waiting to move, and the person driving up behind us, who we found out later had sun in her eyes because she didn't put her visor down and she didn't have her sunglasses on, hit us from behind. And luckily, she wasn't going more than about 15 miles an hour. However, it was enough to cause whiplash. So when you add that on top of fibromyalgia, the pain just flares up quite regularly. So there are days where I just ignore it and other days where it's really bad. And unfortunately for me, my week before Shark Week, so my pre-Shark Week PMS, if you will, I always know when it's coming because a week before I start to feel lots of pain in my lower back, both sides of my knees and my neck. Just, it starts to ache. Sort of, people who say that they can tell when the weather's changing because they can feel it in their joints, the barometric pressure change, like before it rains, and that's a thing, because I can too. So, anyways, so yeah, that's why, because it's sore. And just for those who wonder, that means that all my joints that usually are affected by my arthritis get really achy. And these are just compression gloves that help. They help with sort of warming the joints and keeping them from hurting more than they do. So, in case you wondered. So anyways, I guess what I was wanting to share is that for me, it has been progressive. Okay, for anybody wondering, is it a progressive condition? For me, it was. It started with the pains in my forearms, my upper arms, the front of my thighs, and my shins. This tingling, burning feeling. And then gradually it was all the way up the backs of my legs, above my buttocks, behind my neck. And then the pain spread kind of across my collarbone area and so forth. And I guess I'm sharing this because even though I've been having to live with it, okay, it's been diagnosed now for 5 years, but I was dealing with the pain of it since just after my back injury 6 years ago. And it does progress. And the one thing I would say, or okay, maybe not the one thing, because I seem to always keep saying the one thing, but one thing that has helped me to a degree is honestly removing and eliminating all of my food triggers, all my food sensitivities or intolerances, and plus just, which is a lot, because these were not just things that would cause my arthritis to flare up, but they would also cause me gut issues, like with my IBS and digestion. And they would also were causing me to hold weight in my middle because of my underactive thyroid and because of all the weight I was putting on and all the fat that my body was storing. It was just causing me even more pain and even more discomfort. And I'm here to say, look, this may not work for you. It may not. And if you don't want to even consider it, that's cool. I just figured it has helped me. Okay, so if it can possibly help you, I really hope it does. Sorry, bleh, forgot what I was trying to say. I hope it does. Okay, so I eliminated initially, starting back in May. Okay, end of May, I took out no soy, no dairy, no sugar, no gluten, and that's like rye, barley, wheat. So any of your cookies and cakes and processed carbohydrates and breads, anything that had gluten in it, gone. And I didn't realize how much stuff has gluten in it until I tried to actually get rid of it. And I'm not going to lie. Okay, I knew it was for the best because my body cannot tolerate it, and it was causing a lot of flare-ups with my arthritis and my IBS. Right? So, and it was just being converted and stored as fat anyways. And I knew it was for the best, but I'm not going to lie. The first few days of carb withdrawal sucked. It was not easy. Okay. I had headaches. I felt nauseous. It was crap, but it was worthwhile. All right. To finally get that stuff out of my system was amazing. Okay. I don't digest soy anyways. At one point, I've always had a lactose intolerance, but when I was younger, I just liked ice cream too much to give it up, to my misfortune. So there was a time where I was trying to drink soy milk, which, by the way, for anybody who's wondering, it is disgusting. Okay. It has a horrible aftertaste. It does not taste good in coffee. Blech. All right. So that was easy because I wasn't touching soy of any kind. Anyways, gone. Gluten was harder. All right. Full reveal. Gluten was a lot harder than I thought because it's in all your sauces. It's in all of your, a lot of your favorite seasoning things, and it's just everywhere. So just really, I had to really read labels carefully. And, giving up sugar for sweetener, that wasn't so bad. Now, I realized that I also gave up sweetener because all it did for me was it made me just want sugary things even more. And I found that things were baked with sweetener were way, way, way too sweet. So I gave up sweetener also. I know that nuts and seeds and grains like rice, in my case, were really bad for my IBS. My body couldn't process them properly. They just ran right through me. So like corn and rice, any seed of any kind, I couldn't absorb it. And as much as I love nuts, and honestly, you get those nice mixed nuts that come out at Christmas, I could probably sit down and eat an entire tin by myself within the hour, and I will feel so sick for the next few days. Honestly, my body cannot tolerate it. So that was harder to give up because I love the taste of, roasted nuts, cashews, almonds, whatever. But I did. And I'm not saying it was easy because it wasn't. I had to keep reminding myself that it was bad for my guts. It was bad for my IBS. So it made it a little bit easier to give that up. I was trying to find, okay, so now I've given up all this stuff. Now what do I eat? And I ended up finding information on what was a ketogenic diet. Different YouTubers, different gurus or influencers or doctors, whoever you want to find, it's all there. And there was some really good information. And so I started saying, I tried to go paleo, but they wanted, the book I read was talking about all the nuts I should be eating and all the greens I should be eating. And the thing is, I can't tolerate dark greens. I never could. Things like spinach and broccoli were like a complete disaster for my IBS. And what I was finding was, as I was increasing and eating some avocado and started to bring fried eggs into it, and learning that it maybe wasn't the eggs I was having issues with, as I'd always thought, it was probably just the whites. So just learning lots of information. And as I started to eliminate more things, to try to find what would help me feel the best, I started seeing videos on what was like a meat-heavy ketogenic diet, or what is carnivore, and in its various forms. I do not do strict carnivore, which is steak, salt, water. I don't do that. For one thing, steaks are too expensive, and I have a family of 4, so that would be really selfish of me. But I saw a couple of YouTubers who were continuously talking about, if you can't do steak, that's fine. Find meat that you enjoy and that you can afford and eat that. And I thought, you know what? That's true. That's better than eating carbs, because I never do well with them. And adding some, pink salt or ground salt, not this table salt, because that's not good for you, but the rock salt is, right? It's got the minerals in it. And slowly but surely, I've come to 0 carb for myself, because I know that if I eat carbs, whether it's a piece of cake or a piece of potato, I feel sick almost right away. It flares up and I get inflammation almost instantly in my hands and wrists and in my knees. Now, that does not mean I haven't given in. I'm not perfect. I haven't eaten like a dessert in ages. I haven't. But I gave in. My husband and I were up for coffee about 2 weeks ago, and he got a giant chocolate chip cookie, and I had a small bite. And you know what? It wasn't even that great. I'm sure it was a delicious cookie, but for me personally, it was just like, eh. And I wasn't driven to go and get one for myself. So that's good, because I know that the offside of it is that I would just feel so inflamed and so sick almost within minutes. So for me, that's helpful, but it took a while for me to get there and for me to lose that craving. And what I say is, the week before Shark Week and Shark Week used to be, I had to have sugar, I had to have carbs, and I had to have lots of salt. And it isn't nearly as bad now, thankfully. However, I did find myself eating a little mini bag of ready salted potato chips, crisps for those of you here in the UK, yesterday. And you know what? It was no big deal. It wasn't a whole lot. It's not going to cause massive destruction to my system, but it wasn't satisfying. It really wasn't. I within 20 minutes, I could feel my wrists and my joints starting to flare up. And honestly, that was nowhere near as salted as I thought it would be, so I ended up just grinding a little bit of the pink Himalayan salt I have into my hand and just eating a few granules of salt, which I know sounds weird, but honestly, solved the problem. These days, the things that I love most, that I eat constantly, like for my first meal of the day, whether that's at lunchtime or a little earlier and then at dinner time, is higher fat ground beef. It's either 12 or 15% fat. And I don't know, I'll take a big fist-sized portion of it, I guess, and kind of break it up in the frying pan. I'll do extra crispy bacon, 2 to 3 slices. Once it's done, I take it out, do the beef, crack an egg into it, maybe a little bit of Parmesan ground in, sometimes not, sometimes just a bit of salt, kind of scramble that up together, and then I sprinkle the bacon on top. And it's awesome, right? Because I got all this nice beef fat and a bit of bacon fat or grease, whatever, as well as those things in my body. So I'm getting my proteins, a bit of fat, and it's salted, and it tastes great. And I'm satisfied for the next easily 4 to 5 hours. And it's fantastic. I'm trying to drink more water. I'm trying to, go from maybe one one regular coffee a day, and then the rest is decaf, if anything. That's what I'm doing. But for me, I have tried to go back and try a little bit of fruit, or a little bit of cooked potato, and I find as soon as it goes in my mouth, it doesn't taste good to me anymore. But I also, as soon as I take a bite and swallow it, even a little bit starts to cause issues with my joints. Now, there are some people out there who are just saying, well, you just got to eat more meat, drink more water, and you'll be fine. And for some people that probably does work, and I'm sure that there are many who do that. But for me, I have to include other animal products. So I will do real, it's all grass-fed butter, okay? And because it's butter, there's very, very little lactose, so it doesn't irritate me. I don't put loads in. I might put a tiny little bit in my black coffee, and that's it, with a bit of salt, But I'm sharing all this because it has reduced my inflammation, because I had so much crappy food in my body. Not only did I put on like 40 pounds, well, no, let me fix that. I probably put on 15 pounds during the first bit of lockdown, but I was already 15 pounds above what a healthy weight would be for my age and my height. I'm only 5'5". So I should be closer to 140, right? By the time lockdown started to ease up, I was almost at 175 pounds. I was about 173, which is ridiculous. I wasn't eating necessarily loads more. It's just there was so much already that was in me that was not going anywhere because of my underactive thyroid, because of my liver was under distress, because I was insulin resistant, and having no idea at the time that all these carbs, whether they were from fruits and veg or they were processed, was part of the problem. So once I started to eliminate all that, I dropped the weight. I got down to a healthy weight. I try not to weigh myself every day. I try. Sometimes it's hard, but I try not to. But I think I'm sitting around 127 pounds right now, which is definitely where I need to be. And it's great. And these things I eat, now I love steak, but again, it's expensive. So are we going to put it on the grocery list every week when we have 2 teenagers to feed, plus my husband? No. But we have loads of bacon, which is awesome. I have, for whatever reason, I've lost my appetite for anything chicken. But they'll eat it. So I'll cook for them, and then I'll do up my own ground beef with eggs, maybe cheese, maybe not, and some bacon. And it sounds like it's boring, but honestly, it's so satisfying. I don't find it boring at all. I personally don't, or I'll make burgers. And my husband is willing now to put other things on our grocery list, like sausages or gammon steaks or some sort of pork this or maybe some ground beef that. So he's opening up to other options besides just chicken, which is great. But for me, this helped because once I took away all these inflammatory foods, I found that my inflammation was reduced. Now, there are some out there who were able to reduce things enough. Maybe they didn't have severe symptoms, or they didn't have other autoimmune conditions like I do. I don't know. Some of them were able to come off their medication fully, and that's fantastic, and I'm happy for them. But right now, that isn't my plan. I'm not looking. First of all, it's impossible to see your GP these days. But I'm not trying to get off all my medications because right now they're helping, right? And for now, that's all I want, because before the pain was so bad, the medications weren't really making any difference. Now at least so much of the inflammation is down that the medication's actually helping me. So I guess what I want, one of the things I wanted to share with everybody is that it's okay if you want to keep taking your medications because you find that they're helpful, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's sort of this idea that if you don't come off all of your medications by eating, strict carnivore or keto, then you're doing something wrong or there's something wrong with you. And I don't think that's true. I think they're given for a reason. If you decide you want to eliminate everything and take it back to just, whatever it might be, quality ground beef, that's what I prefer because steaks are too expensive. So if it's things like ground beef and eggs, dairy if you can do it, because it's a product of an animal, right? That can include cheese. Oh, I do have lactose-free cheese sometimes, right? So that can include cheese, different yogurts, as long as they're not full of, artificial flavorings and aspartame and crap like that. But if your body can tolerate it, go for it. Why not? It's fine, right? It's not poison. So if you can have dairy, go for it. If you enjoy it, have it. And it doesn't cause you issues, then go for it. But I'm just saying that for me, cutting out all these other things it's helped me lose over 45 pounds. Fantastic. But it has absolutely, cut back on my inflammation. Do I think it's going to completely remove it all the way? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's much better than it was. And so therefore my medication is actually effective, which is the whole point of it to begin with, right? So I know that this is longer than I thought it would be, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. And I didn't want you guys to think that, because I know I did a couple of videos where I was really excited and look at this, my inflammation's down and I lost all this weight and all this blah, blah, blah. You got to try it. You know what? I realized I probably didn't put in enough disclaimers, because just because I was able to lose this kind of weight doesn't mean you will. It all depends on, again, do you have thyroid issues like I do? Do you have other autoimmune conditions or gut issues like I do with irritable bowel syndrome, and therefore intolerances and sensitivities and borderline allergy reactions to foods? I do. I have. So, if that's the case, then you may want to consider eliminating a lot of these things. And yes, you will lose weight, but it also means you'll be clearing out the inflammation. Is it going to go away fully? No idea. I suspect probably not, because this is a chronic condition. And I know there are those who will make you think that if you start eating in a meat-based or a no-carb way, that it will fix everything magically all at once. And that's just not the case. It can fix a lot of things. Yeah. But there are some things that, it will not fully fix. I will always have fibromyalgia. I will always have chronic back pain. I will always have IBS. I will always have an underactive thyroid. However, when I take the pills I'm supposed to and I eat a much healthier diet, then it's manageable. And, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It can be manageable. I don't think it's a fix-all cure for absolutely everything. For some people it might be, but if it isn't, like in my case, that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong, right? It just means that, you have something that can't just be fixed by just your diet change alone. But that's a big help. That is a big help. So if that's the case, go for it. Anyways, I apologize for the length, you guys. That's the thing with fibromyalgia, isn't it? I have all these ideas all the time about, I want to share this, and I want to talk to people about this, and I got to get up, I got to make a video, and then I get tired, or I'm sore, or I just can't be asked, right? Which is the big bit. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please, I hope you give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share this with anybody who has fibromyalgia or chronic pain of some kind, or anybody who knows somebody who has it. Hopefully it helps. And please feel free to make comments if you want to know anything else about eating a zero carb approach to food. There are some great YouTubers out there. One of my favorite YouTubers right now who's doing the carnivore diet, who has other, issues like histamine issues and so forth, but she's fat. She's really great. Her name is Carnivore Yogi, and I'll try to put her details in the description box below. And there's also Lisa Keto Person, and I will try to find her. I'll put her details in the link in the description box below. And other than that, if you go and look up carnivore diet, there's all kinds of resources, and there's all kinds of great advice out there. So, if you're interested in finding out more, or if you, want to know just kind of how I approached it for me, you can always ask. I don't mind. But hopefully the next video will come a little bit sooner than my last one. And yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much for staying all the way to the end. I know it's a long one. Thanks again. And listen, I hope you guys are finding some kind of relief, some pain relief, and if not, maybe this video might be of help. But thank you guys for watching. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye for now.